doe, a deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of golden sun. That a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, the medicine go down, medicine go down, just a spoonful of sugar.
Julie Andrews possessed a rare four-octave singing range that made her an international icon, from Mary Poppins to The Sound of Music.
Started very young. My stepfather discovered that I had this freak singing voice, about 4 octaves.
But a routine medical procedure silenced her permanently, ending her singing career. This led to a medical malpractice lawsuit, and Julie ended up taking her own doctors to court. So, Julie Andrews was one of the biggest stars in entertainment, and she was so talented that major studios and directors came looking directly for her. Walt Disney even went backstage at one of her Broadway shows to pitch her a new movie called Mary Poppins. But Julie had to deliver some unexpected news.
I said, Mr. Disney, I'm so sorry to tell you, but I'm pregnant. And he said, honestly, that's okay, we'll wait. Wow. And so he waited, and I most happily said yes to Mary Poppins.
Imagine being so incredibly talented that Walt Disney himself literally delays an entire multi-million-dollar movie production just because he has to have you. That is crazy. Julie's massive success actually did not start easily. Before Mary Poppins, she had played Eliza Doolittle on Broadway in My Fair Lady. When Hollywood made the movie, Jack Warner passed over Julie because he didn't think she was famous enough to sell the film. Audrey Hepburn got the role instead. That could have crushed her. Thankfully, losing My Fair Lady meant she was free to accept Mary Poppins. One rejection ended up becoming the role that won her an Oscar. Years later, while starring in the Broadway show Victor Victoria, she started having problems with her voice. Doctors found a lesion on one of her vocal cords. Over the years, it has been described as a nodule, a polyp, and a cyst. Julie later said it was closest to a cyst, a weak spot that had formed after years of singing. The show was almost over, but there was another tour being planned. Julie wanted to keep performing, so she met with her doctor and was faced with two choices. First, she could rest her voice and hope it recovered on its own, or second, she could undergo surgery to remove the lesion. Julie later said she thought she was just having a routine procedure. As she understood it, there was no risk to her voice, and she would be able to sing again just weeks after the operation. And honestly, who wouldn't believe that? When you have a massive tour waiting and your doctor tells you you'll be back on stage in a few weeks, you're going to trust them. So, wanting to protect the career she loved, she chose the operation, completely unaware that the procedure meant to save her voice would end up taking it from her. In June 1997, Julie underwent surgery at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. But that's not what happened. When she woke up, her vocal cords had been permanently damaged.
Julie, as we talk, your voice sounds hoarse. Is that part of this condition?
Yes.
Will Julie Andrews be able to sing again?
Well, I can only say I hope so. No, I don't. I think I'll leave it up to other people now. And I do use music in every way possible, but I don't really sing anymore. I wish I could, but I had an operation and it wasn't that successful.
Her husband, filmmaker Blake Edwards, later said he didn't believe she would ever sing again. He called it an absolute tragedy, which is really sad because Julie had spent her whole life using her voice, but she wasn't ready to give up just yet. Julie began doing vocal exercises and followed the treatment plan she had been given. Like many patients recovering from surgery, hoping her voice would slowly come back. But it never did. Her speaking voice remained weak, and the singing voice she relied on was gone. Julie tried to move forward, but accepting what had happened wasn't easy.
Can you possibly put into words what you felt like when you were told that you might never sing again?
I haven't completely absorbed it, so I never really accepted it. It's too painful to really dwell on.
You can really hear the pain in her voice. to lose something that's been a part of you since you were a little kid has to be completely paralyzing. And I think at that time for Julie, singing wasn't just a job, you know? It was basically her identity. Julie eventually sought help from another voice specialist, Dr. Stephen Zeitels. Over several procedures, he was able to remove some of the scar tissue and improve the flexibility of her remaining vocal cord tissue. Her speaking voice became clearer, but her singing voice did not. Dr. Zeitels later found that too much of the original vocal cord tissue had been lost. Julie said there was nothing that was going to grow back. Her vocal range had been reduced to about an octave. She could still sing some lower notes, but much of the range she had relied on for her career was gone. To hear that there's just nothing left to repair is devastating. After everything she'd already been through, that had to be incredibly hard to accept. It meant accepting that she might never perform the way she once had. As she tried to understand everything that had happened, she also started asking questions about the surgery itself. In December 1999, she filed a malpractice lawsuit against her doctors and Mount Sinai Hospital.
Are you thinking of suing?
Believe me, it's under consideration, and obviously right now it's in the hands of lawyers, and we'll make some decisions.
According to the lawsuit, Julie said she was never warned that the operation carried a risk of permanent hoarseness or an irreversible loss of her vocal quality. Worse yet, the lawsuit actually accused the doctor of operating on both sides of her vocal cords, when there was absolutely no medical reason to touch the right side at all. She argued the surgery shouldn't have happened in the first place because her condition could have been treated if she had just rested her voice. What? That is so messed up. So she could have just rested her voice instead? And how do you mess up so badly that you operate on a perfectly healthy vocal cord without even warning her about the risks? By the way, what happened to Julie actually scared other singers. Dr. Stephen Zeitels wrote that her case attracted worldwide attention, creating great fear among patients and throat specialists. He noted that it took more than a decade to change the public view that voice surgery was dangerous. And even after successful surgeries throughout the 2000s, the procedure was still widely seen as a massive risk. If Julie Andrews, one of the most famous voices ever, could walk into a hospital for a routine procedure and come out unable to sing, it makes complete sense why other performers panicked. One of the rules Dr. Zeitels later gave for treating singers was that doctors should not convince a vocalist to have surgery. A singer should never feel rushed or comforted with vague promises. Dr. Zeitels said doctors should review the vocal exam with the patient, explain how the surgery is supposed to improve vocal fold vibration, have clear surgical goals, plan post-operative vocal rehab, and explain that vocal function may improve but the folds may not be perfectly smooth after healing. That is true, because if I were them, I would also panic. And since I'm not a doctor, I would trust them blindly. And that blind trust is exactly why Julie took action. Now, to be clear, these were Julie's claims in the lawsuit. The case did not end with a public trial where every detail was laid out for everyone. Instead, it ended the following year in a confidential settlement. Julie said singing had been a cherished gift and losing it was a devastating blow. Settling the case removed the legal battle, but it didn't mean the emotional recovery was over. Julie went to grief therapy. She later admitted she had been living in denial because she couldn't imagine life without the voice she had depended on for so many years.
I feel so very fortunate that I had something that helped me clear my head and get rid of the clutter and understand life a little better. And
Julie still had to figure out what her life looked like without singing. And most people always expect you just focus on recovery and move on. But as it turns out, this wasn't the end of her story. She kept working. She continued acting, took on new film roles, like The Princess Diaries 2, where fans thought they were finally hearing her sing again, when she performed Your Crowning Glory with Raven. Julie was careful with it though. She didn't want people thinking her old voice had magically come back. She explained it was more like speak singing, and the song had to be written low enough to fit the few notes she still had. Which is pretty sad. Julie at the time was just using whatever was left of her voice. Thankfully, she found another way to share her creativity by writing children's books together with her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton.
What about all the books? Now, you've been writing, how long have you been writing children's books?
I think about 30 years now,
Really?
maybe a little more.
Wow.
Yeah, and now my daughter, the mother of Sam, we have a publishing imprint which is called the Julie Andrews Collection.
Now, that is cool. Even though she couldn't sing anymore, Julie didn't stop creating. She simply found another way to reach people. Later, she looked back and realized something she never expected.
I might, if I hadn't had the problems with the voice, I might never have embraced all these new things.
So it really was that misfortune that took you on a different career path.
Yeah.
When they were working on the memoir together, Emma actually went back and read her mother's private diaries from those years. She realized that while she always saw her mom as this grown-up who was in total control and had all the answers, the private pages told a completely different story. Emma said that in the diaries, Julie was incredibly candid about feeling insecure, confused, worried, and lonely while trying to figure out her life after the injury.
And when you're a child, you think your mom has all the answers and has everything figured out, and she's a grown-up, and grown-ups know everything, right? And so reading her diaries, I was surprised and reminded that now I'm a grown-up and I have my own kids, and I know you never feel like a grown-up. And in her diaries, she was very candid about feeling insecure or feeling confused or feeling
lonely,
worried or lonely
depressed,
or what have you.
Even through all the private pain in her diaries, Julie refused to stay miserable. Emma revealed that her mother has a personal family mantra that she repeats constantly to keep herself grounded, counting her blessings no matter how bad things get.
This is the thing that Mama has always said all her life is, she's worked so hard, but she also always says, but I was the lucky person who was asked to play those roles, and I've been so fortunate, I've been so blessed, and she's constantly counting her blessings and expressing gratitude. And so her mantra that she goes by, and this has become a family saying, is, "Are we lucky or what?" And she'll say it, all the time, anywhere, about anything.
Damn, she really is humble and really cool. She really is Mary Poppins.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Julie supported research into vocal cord injuries, helped bring doctors and scientists together, and backed work that could lead to better treatments for future patients. She knew it wouldn't bring back her own singing voice, but she still wanted to help others. Honestly, she had every reason to walk away from that part of her life. Instead, she stayed involved and tried to help people who might face the same thing. Years later, Julie tried to step back in front of a live audience, and it did not go the way people hoped. In 2010, she returned to a London stage for the first time in 3 decades, with a show called The Gift of Music at the O2 Arena. And many people walked in expecting some version of her old self, the voice from Mary Poppins and the sound of music that could fill a room effortlessly. She simply didn't have that voice anymore. In an interview right before the concert, Julie tried to prepare the public, saying directly,
I don't think people should expect that I'm going to sing the way I did sing. I think a lot of people mistakenly feel that I'm making this giant comeback concert. It's not exactly that.
Julie sang in parts of the show, but younger performers carried most of the heavier music. Some fans left disappointed, critics were harsh, and some people even walked out demanding refunds. Which is pretty sad. She literally warned everyone beforehand, and people already knew she went through that nightmare surgery. So why are they complaining? If I were there, I would just be happy she was up there trying her best to perform. Years after the surgery, Julie spoke more openly. She admitted that she still missed singing very, very, very much. Even after all those years, the loss was still there.
I love singing, so I would imagine it still would be very frustrating when you've been blessed with that incredible voice.
Yeah, and I so loved it and felt I still had so much that I wanted to do. But never mind, I'm grateful to be busy.
For a long time, she believed her voice was the biggest part of who she was. Eventually, she realized she had been measuring herself by only one gift. Her daughter Emma said something Julie never forgot.
Mum, you've just found a new way of using your voice.
Damn, that literally gives me goosebumps. We must protect Emma at all costs. Julie later said that changed everything. Her voice wasn't gone. She was still teaching, still writing, and still telling stories. She just wasn't doing it the way she once imagined. I think every parent hopes to hear something like that when they're struggling. Sometimes it only takes one sentence to change the way you see everything. But even with that new perspective, honestly, I don't think Julie ever stopped missing her voice. You don't just get over losing something like that. But she simply refused to let it define the rest of her life. And that is a level of strength most people really struggle to find. So let me know what you think about her journey down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.